Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years, and today I have my special guest. She's Emmy Award winner, and of course, four times best-selling author, no other than Ms. Rhonda Britten.
Well, thank you, Daniel. I'm so excited to be here. This
Welcome
is
to
very,
welcome to Book 101, Miss Rhonda. Can you please introduce more about yourself?
oh my God, I'm so boring. What do you mean about myself? Let's see. I won an Emmy. I was the first life coach on TV in the world in reality shows. I've done over 600 episodes of reality shows. I've done starred in 3 television series. I've got 4 books. My baby, Fearless Living, is the one that we're talking about today. That is my signature, my seminal work, the thing that is the heart of what I do. And I train coaches, certified fearless living coaches. I help people master fear. I help people map their fear so they understand it, so they're no longer tricked by it.
Miss Rhonda Britten, thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world.
Oh, wait, and I've been on Oprah and Today's Show and Steve Harvey, blah, blah, blah.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're
So,
welcome.
fearless living. What does it mean to live fearlessly, and how can we cultivate courage in our daily lives?
Well, fearless living is a process in order for you to map fear so it is no longer hidden from you, so that when you are beating yourself up, putting yourself down, stuck, lacking confidence, doubting yourself, you actually have a pathway out. So you don't sit there and just ruminate and go, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? Why am I like this? Why am I like this? Why am I like this? I like to say that when you understand your fear, when you understand how fear works uniquely to you, then there is no more what's wrong with me or why am I like this? Those 2 questions are eliminated because you understand what's happening. It is, like I said, the map of fear. I call it the wheel of fear. And then, of course, how to get out of it, which is called the wheel of freedom. So the first thing to do in order to move through fear is to recognize you have it. And most people, including myself, most of my life, I never even believed I had fear. Sure, we might say I fear failure or fear rejection or things like that. But really, to understand that we have this core fear that's driving us. So when people used to say to me, are you afraid? I'd be like, no, no, no. But I was procrastinating. I was people pleasing. I was overwhelmed. I was anxious. I had low self-esteem. I lacked confidence. So all of these things that I talk about in Fearless Living, and we'll go more in future interviews, but if you judge, if you hide, if you pretend, if you procrastinate, if you worry, if you blame, if you struggle, if you whine, right? If you manipulate, if you control, all of these things, if you feel bitter, disappointed, resentful, all of these are just signs. They're just fear responses to that thing that I call the wheel of fear, the core fear that you have that's really, truly driving you, that has never really been discovered before. It hasn't been mapped in the way that I've done it in the past. So once you understand what's happening to you, just imagine you don't beat yourself up anymore. You don't think you're crazy anymore. You don't think you're stupid or lazy anymore. You don't spend all of that time, going circles around and around. Instead, you have the space, the energy, the focus, the time, the clarity, and the personal power to take action in whatever dream you have, whatever dream is moving through you, whatever dream is in your bones that you want to fulfill.
So, Miss Rhonda, how can we differentiate between fear that protect us and fear that hold us back?
Oh, that's a good one. So I want you to think of fear. I want you to think of 2 fears. There's physical fear and there's emotional fear. Physical fear is, I want you to think of instincts. It is literally your body going, we are going to die if we go, if we go out of that plane. If we jump out of that plane, we're going to die. So our physical fear is there to keep us alive. It is our instincts, our human animal instincts. That is good. That is a good thing. The challenge is that we also have emotional fears. And those emotional fears have the same response, but we're not going to die. right? We're not going to die if we take a stretch risk or die. We're not going to die if we go for a dream. But our body and brain and our neurobiology doesn't know the difference between a physical fear and an emotional fear. So if you have a fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of loss, fear of judgment, when you have those fears, it feels the same as if you were jumping out of a plane, if that's what one of your physical fears are. So that's the thing. The emotional fears are so subtle, and they have the same physical response. So that's why it's confusing, because our body shakes. We might get a headache. We have a rampant rumination thoughts. We might get our throat, something stuck in our throat. We might feel paralyzed. Our back might hurt, right? So we have physical, we have thoughts, and we have emotions come up, and we think that our body and our brain and our heart says those emotional fears, if we go forward and do that thing that is activating this emotional fear, we will die. But this is the thing, we won't. It's a emotional fear, not a physical fear. But our body and brain and heart don't know the difference.
Beautifully articulated, Miss Rhonda.
I like
Well
this clapping.
done.
Can I
Well
take that around?
done.
Can I take that clapping everywhere I go? I like that. Just
Yes,
everything I say,
definitely.
just clap.
Definitely. So
Ooh, I like it.
what are some common fears that prevent people from pursuing their dreams?
Oh, well, there are what I call the wheel of fear. There are 10 core fears. And let me just read them to you. It's a difference between what people think they're afraid of versus their core fear. And I know you and I've talked about diving deeper into my book, so I don't want to get too deep because we'll do that together. But most people think, they have a fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of intimacy, fear of vulnerability, fear of the unknown, right? So fear of abandonment. So most of us can articulate, I must be afraid of rejection. I'm not networking right now. I'm not going out in the world. I'm not dating. I'm not building my business. I'm not meeting people. Oh, I must be afraid of rejection. Or I'm getting close to somebody and I'm afraid to get close. Oh, I must be afraid of abandonment. And all of those things are fear responses. Those things may actually be part and parcel of how you process fear. And the work that I do, creating the wheel of fear, there are 10 core fears that stop everybody on some level. And again, I don't know what yours is. I know what mine is. But the fear of looking selfish, that stops people. Fear of looking stupid, that stops people. Fear of looking weak, ooh, that stops people. Fear of looking incompetent, oh, that stops people. Fear of looking ordinary, being ordinary, ooh, that's a big one. People are afraid to be ordinary. People are afraid to look like a loser, don't want to look like a loser. They don't want to look fake. People are afraid of looking fake. They're afraid of looking lazy. I don't want to look lazy. Invisible. Some people are afraid to be invisible. They just have to be seen at all times. And some people are afraid of rejection so much that they actually reject themselves before anyone else can reject it. So these fears are the beginning or the starting point, the ignition key, so to speak, of what I call the wheel of fear and how we map that fear. So those fears, mine is loser. I don't want you to think or smell or see or even imagine that I'm a loser. And when I identified that, now mind you, I'd never been called a loser in my whole life. I was a straight A student. I was class president, so I was never called a loser. But when I did the work on myself, as I created the Wheel of Fear and Wheel of Freedom, when I recognized that my deepest, darkest, hidden, unconscious fear is that I'm seen, called, smelled, anything like a loser, I could look over my whole life and see why I made the decisions I did, why I didn't take action, why I got married, why I got divorced, why I quit college with 3 credits left, why I A, B, or C. So that these fears are causing us unconsciously to do behaviors, have thoughts, have feelings, take actions to keep us, quote unquote, safe, because our neurobiology is wired to keep us safe, wants to keep us alive. Again, the difference is that the brain and body don't know the difference between an emotional fear and a physical fear. To the body and brain, and it's the same.
So, Miss Rhonda, how can we build resilience to overcome setbacks and failures?
Oh, well, I really invite you to recognize that setbacks are, I mean, we all know this, don't we? All have heard this 100 times. It's just the journey. It's not a setback. It's just a stop on the road, right? But until you recognize what it is that's driving that need to be seen, driving that need to be recognized, driving that need for success. Again, I want you to be ambitious. I want you to be driven. I want you to go for your dream. I want all of that for you. So resilience really is a relationship with yourself. Do you know yourself? And do you have the tools and skills in order to move through the tough spots of your journey on the way to your dream? Because we're all going to do it. And we all know this. We all are aware of this. This isn't a secret anymore, right? We've all read the books. We've all read the quotes. We've all seen the memes. We all know that we're going to hit the hard parts. We're all going to hit the wall. But when we hit it, none of us imagine it's going to be like that, right? It's like, well, what do you mean it's like this? Like, I'm smarter than this. I'm more ambitious. What's going on? So instead of keeping yourself in the dark, instead of being ignorant of how you work, to getting to know yourself better and how you actually process information, process the environment around you, that is how you build resilience. To understand yourself better, become more aware, and build up those skills and tools so that whenever anything does, any bump in the road or hole in the road or cave in the road or, falling off the road, doesn't take you off center. It doesn't take you off and make you doubt every single solitary thing you've done. Instead, you can actually see it for what it is and not take it personally, right? So having resilience is a critical skill, yet part of having resilience is, like I said, is becoming aware of how you work. If you're not willing to become aware of how you work and you just want magic to happen without you becoming more awake, good luck. Go for it. Knock yourself out. You need to be willing and ready to actually become more aware of who you are and how you personally work.
Indeed, Miss Rhonda.
It's true. It's true.
So, what role does self confidence play in living without fear?
Well, you're never going to live without fear. Fear is part of our neurobiology. So fear is hardwired into us, at birth. So there's no getting rid of fear. There's only mastering fear. So when you have that lack of self-confidence, when you have that doubt, again, I'm going to go back to the same thing again, is, are you willing to forgive yourself? Are you willing to release the past? Are you willing to recognize that this is fear and it's not you? Because there's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just fear. So when you're doing these fear responses like procrastination, people pleasing, and anxiety, and overwhelm, and guilt, and worry, and control, and all of those things, that is a sign for you that you're on the wrong path. You're on the fear path. I want to get you on the freedom path so that you can express your true nature. But in order to do that, you've got to become awake to when fear is at play so that you can go, wait a minute, fear's at play right now. I'm responding from fear. I don't want to do that. Wait a minute. And make a conscious choice to get over to what I call the wheel of freedom so that you can access your essential nature and make decisions from that place. Because too often we make decisions based in fear instead of from our true authentic nature, from our true dream that's in our bones, awaiting to be birthed. So we want to take action from there, not keep on making the same decisions out of fear that keep getting us on the treadmill, that keep having us hit walls, that keep on making us doubt ourselves. I'll give you a perfect example. I had a guy, I was speaking at an 8-figure mastermind. So everybody who made more than 10 million. There were 7, 8, 9 figure businesses there. And a guy raised his hand when I was speaking and said, well, I just want to get rid of this whole thing I do. I make millions and I lose it all. And I make millions and I lose it all. I make millions and I lose it all. And so I asked him a few questions and he said, well, my father and grandfather did this. My grandfather made millions, lost it. My father made millions, lost it, right? And got more, got it again, started it again. He goes, I want to quit this. I want to stop doing what they did. And I said the following words to him: have you forgiven them? And he literally looked at me like I had, 25 eyes coming out of the back of my head, right? He's like, what? Because he wanted me to give him like 3 steps and, do the ABC, right? Like, oh yeah, you can overcome it. No, have you forgiven them? And do you see that they were driven by fear? Because we were at that event, I was breaking down the wheel of fear and helping them see their wheels of fear. I go, can you see how they were on their wheel of fear? So in order for them to feel loved, they had to lose everything. It was either love or money. So they got the money, then to keep love, they lost it. And then they got more money and then they lost it for love, right? So they kept going back and forth. And they felt that worthy, unworthy, worthy, unworthy, worthy, unworthy. So have you forgiven them? And he was speechless. He had never even thought of that, and he had never done it. And I
Oh,
said, if you forgive your grandfather, and if you forgive your father, and forgive yourself, then you are proactively taking yourself off the wheel of fear, recognizing your humanity, and accessing the truth of who you are, which is you living on your wheel of freedom. So that is a perfect example of somebody who blames themselves and thinks they're screwed up or something's wrong with them, or, what's my problem? And it's like, you're not the problem. Your ignorance is, right? Your unconsciousness is. And again, we all have it. I have a wheel of fear. You have a wheel of fear. There's no not having a wheel of fear. It's formed by the time we're 6. And it even can be handed down through our DNA. So you don't even have to have an event that you point to and go, it's this, the reason my wheel of fear is this. No, there may be no event. So there's no more whys or how can I stop this? Well, again, your willingness to be attentive to your human reality and step into the truth of who you are. And that is scary for most people, even though they crave it and want it. It's scary because they're so used to living on the treadmill of fear.
certainly. Forgive and let it go, people.
Let it go.
Let
Let it
it
go.
go.
Let
S-
it go.
So, Miss Rhonda, how can mindfulness and self-awareness help us combat fear?
Mm. Well, that is the first step. So to become self-aware is scary because then you become aware of all the
Yes,
things, right?
yes,
And so when people start on this journey, and me and other teachers will say you must become more self-aware, because without awareness you will not change. On one hand, it's exciting because you start recognizing all these things, and it's exhilarating, and you feel a surge of energy, and there's lots of space, and you feel excited. And on the other hand, you become aware of how you sound, what you think, how you treat people, and the illusion that you've told yourself who you are, how you act, etc., start shattering, and you start seeing your humanness. And that is a call for compassion. So what does mindfulness and awareness give you? When you're willing to be on the journey of that, your level of compassion, your level of empathy, your heart open, your willingness to be vulnerable, your willingness to speak your truth, your willingness to say what needs to be said in a powerful, impactful way rises. So we want to be able to be still. We want to be able to be silent. We want to be able to still for those seconds or minutes in order to reflect, to take responsibility for what we're saying, what we're thinking, what we're feeling, so that we can make a choice on what to do next. Too many of us are on automatic pilot and we actually never make a choice. So that's why awareness and mindfulness, meditation, etc., are so critical. So we can get used to that moment of stopping ourselves. Just stop yourself. Just stop. Just stop. I tell my clients, get used to going in the bathroom, because if you are activated, I don't want you to speak. I don't want you to do anything. I want you to get yourself together. And if that means going in the bathroom and sitting in a stall for 5 minutes, so be it, because you need to get yourself centered again so that you then can respond from a fearless place. So there's no acting out anymore. No, I feel like it. This is who I am. I have a right. No. Again, you do. You have all these rights. But how you exhibit your rights, how you share your rights, how you show up will determine how in alignment you are with your true nature and how available you are to other people and their love.
Certainly. So, Miss Rhonda, what will be your advice for those people out there who want to live fearless living?
Oh, well, if you want to live fearless living, you are in luck because I occasionally teach my fearless living workshop. And I am teaching my Fearless Living Workshop coming up on February 22nd and 23rd, Pacific time, Los Angeles time on Zoom. So if you actually want to understand how fear works, if you want to understand your wheel of fear, if you want to understand how the wheel of freedom works, if you want to know how to go between fear and freedom, if you want to understand it, and if you want to be able to do it, then join me February 22nd and 23rd on Zoom. And I'm going to break down the whole fearless living journey for you. And the other thing that if you're thinking, oh, I can't make those weekends, great, then go to fearlessliving.org and you can take the Fearless Living Transformation Program online, the self-paced class, or you can grab my book, Fearless Living. And I would love to gift you something to get you going. So go to, write this down, everybody, get your pen out, fearlessliving.org/risk, R-I-S-K, fearlessliving.org/risk, R-I-S-K. When you go to fearlessliving.org/risk, you're going to see a class called Stretch, Risk, or Die, and it's how to cure procrastination. So I'm going to give you one of my clients' very favorite tools today so that you can start taking action, start seeing what it is that's stopping you from moving forward. And it's 3 15-minute videos, simple as pie, got workbook, worksheets, everything you need. And then at the end of the third video, I actually break down the wheel of fear so you can see it in action. So if you have 2 days to spend with me, do it. Because I don't teach very often live. So get on that Zoom February 22nd, 23rd. If that doesn't work for you, then take the online class. Or if you're a book, because this is a book review, you can go and grab Fearless Living and do the book, maybe with a friend. And you can, all the exercises are in there to help you identify your wheel of fear and wheel of freedom.
Definitely stop procrastinating, people. Go, go,
Yeah,
go. Take the
go.
chance. Ta-
Yeah.
So, Miss Rhonda, what are your short-term, long-term goals in writing, as well as
Oh,
being a coaches or
well, you're in luck because I just finished the first draft of my memoir about my
nice?
dark night of the soul. And I'm also creating doing a proposal for my next fear book. So I've got a fear book proposal that I'm working on and my memoir that I'm doing rewrites on. So I'm very, very, very excited because this memoir is something that I've been wanting to do for 10 years. And I've been putzing, doing it here and there, here and there, here and there. And over the last 2.5 years, I've worked on chapter by chapter by chapter, story by story by story. And it is done, 336 pages. And so the edits, I'll try to cut that down a little bit, get a few pages out of there. And you'll discover how to be fearless during a dark night of the soul. So that's my book I'm working on besides the proposal for my fear book.
Looking forward for that book, Miss
Yeah,
Rhonda, and you are most welcome to come back and promote all your books. And
thank you.
people, Ms.Rhonda Britten will be my feature author of the month of March. So please tune in for that. So, Ms. Rhonda, how can we develop a habit of taking responsibility for our action and
Mm.
decisions?
I'm going to say a word that some people find hard to hear, and some people feel that it's even harder to do. And that is gentle. Be gentle with yourself. As you start taking more responsibility for what comes out of your mouth and the actions you take, the key to keeping on going on this journey is gentleness, kindness with yourself, recognizing that it is not necessarily easy to look at yourself with clear eyes. But a willingness to do that will actually set you free. And I promise you that as the days go by, you are going to be more and more and more and more excited to be you, like thrilled to be you, excited and happy to be you. So just practice that gentleness with yourself as you build that awareness, as you step forward, because it's not always going to be pretty, right? Sometimes it's going to be exciting. Sometimes it's going to be scary. Sometimes it's going to be pretty. Sometimes it's going to be hard. Just be gentle with yourself, because that'll keep your heart open and that'll keep you moving forward.
Wow, I like it. Beautifully articulated. Very well said, Miss Rhonda. I will be kinder. Be kind to myself from now on. Be
Yes,
kind.
gentle,
Be
gentle,
gentle.
gentle,
Be
gentle,
gentle.
gentle.
You will
Not so
be,
hard on yourself. Being hard on
yes,
yourself does not make you motivated.
be
I know people think it does, but it
yes.
hasn't worked. Has it? Has it really gotten you better? I don't think so.
So, how do external influences like society, family, or friends contribute to excuse making, and how can we counteract them?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because I think one of the number one reasons people don't get fearless is because they're afraid of the relationship that may be affected, family, friends, lovers, children, etc. So it's one of the reasons why I work with in my book and in the workshop and in the self-paced class, something called Fear Junkies and Fearbusters. So you can start identifying the people in your life where they show up as a fear junkie, and start realizing that their fear junkiness is just their fear, nothing to do with you, zero to do with you, and where they are being fear busters. So you can start having discernment about what to share with who, and who to hang with about certain things. But we must also know how to communicate to those fear junkies. So, like I said, in my book and in the course, I talk you through some ways to manage those relationships. Because I will say that I think that is the number one reason people don't go to the class and don't read the book and don't do the self-pace, right? Because they think like, oh my God, I'm going to be rejected by if I change, if I start getting fearless, they're going to think I'm all that, or they're going to think like, who do I think I am? Or again, the the fear of a relationship splintering stops people from living their authentic life. So your opportunity is to decide, well, I want to live an authentic life. I want to live the life my soul intended. And that means I must get skilled at my relationships so that I know how to be with them. I know when somebody's being a fear junkie. I know when I'm being a fear junkie, because you're being a fear junkie too sometimes, and who's being a fear buster. So you know how to navigate those relationships, because it is true. Relationships are the number one reason people do not move forward in their lives. So you've got to decide that you want to love yourself more, that you have that dream that's more than that you love yourself more in order to fulfill that dream, more than you want to be respected, admired, or adored by another. But if you're living your life trying to get somebody's approval, then you will never get your own.
Live uniquely, people. So, Miss Rhonda, to wrap up our discussion for today, what is the major excuses that has held you back, and how can you overcome it starting today?
Ooh. Well, if everybody right now, the number one thing you can do to start the process of uncovering your fear is to keep track of your excuses and to keep track of those things that you think are your flaws. So things I read to you earlier, the procrastination, the people pleasing, the overwhelm, the anxiety, the judgment, the waiting, the et cetera, the bitterness, the resentment, et cetera. So just start keeping track of your fear responses, i.e., your excuses, i.e., your complaints, your judgments of yourself, your expectations of others and yourself. Start keeping track of those. And you keeping track of those is going to wake you up to help you see how often you're doing things in your life, showing up in your life, speaking in your life, not showing up in your life because of those excuses, those fear responses, right? So excuses are just fear responses, and keep track of them. And as you start noticing them, ask yourself, do I want to keep on letting fear make my decisions for me? Number one. And then the other thing you can do for excuses is I really like the exercise in my book, Fearless Living, called the Life Log. And what that is keeping track of what you do every day. And actually, this is so good. Right? Keeping track of what you do every day, let's say every hour. And ask yourself, do you want to do this? Is this something you want to do, or is this something you should do? This is another way for you to start identifying the things that are really not in alignment with who you are, but you're doing it out of a should. And it doesn't mean you're going to stop doing some of your shoulds. Like, you got to pick up your kids from school. That feels like a should, but you're going to do it anyway. Then turn it into a want, right? So just start paying attention, because you paying attention to your excuses and recognizing those are driven from fear are going to give you the courage, maybe the fortitude, the push, the nudge to actually map out your wheel of fear so that you can get on your wheel of freedom.
Ms.Rhonda Britten, Emmy Award winner and 4 times best-selling author. Thank you so much for sharing your talents to the world, and we are looking for more empowering books to come. So can you please invite our listeners to support all your books?
Love that. Go over to fearlessliving.org, and all the books are there under books, and go get your free gift, fearlessliving.org/risk. And remember, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just fear.
Just fear, people. So, people, let's support Ms.Rhonda Britten. If we go support her, more coaching to come, more empowering books to come. So, Miss Rhonda, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
More to come, people. See you soon.